Hey, what's good everyone? So I was thinking that before the year ends, why not do a little bit of a special video. Today I'm going to be doing a tier list of all of the major TDX bosses. Now, as you can see here, I created a category for mini bosses, which I'm not going to be talking about. I may talk about in another video, but I put these here because unlike the regular bosses, they don't really have, say, as many abilities or health, or they don't have their own theme. Okay, what do you consider a major boss? Well, I would say if they have their own health bar, like the one that appears on the top of the screen when they come out, if they have their own theme, and if they have, multiple attacks and their own dedicated wave just for them. So that is what we're going to be ranking today. Now, I will be ranking all these guys based on three things. One is their design, so that is basically their models, their animations, and just overall how I think they look. Two is going to be, gameplay. How fun are they to fight? How hard are they to fight? And their attacks as well. And third, I'll be ranking them based on their theme. This is kind of a little minor thing to consider. The boss themes really do add to the experience of fighting them. So those are the things I'm going to be considering in this ranking. So I'm sure I will probably have a couple hot takes here, so feel free to disagree with me in the comments. And yeah, let's just get started. I will do this in a particular order, but I'll mostly try to do it on the screens you see here from left to right. So let's start off with the tutorial bosses. The first one here is the Crush-O-Tron. He's really not that exciting, if I'm being honest. I think he looks kind of lame. Obviously he only has one attack, barely any health. However, he does have his own theme, which is like, I believe, a remix of Defender Be Slaughtered. So he gets a little bit of points for that, but he's going into D tier. Eradicator. This guy, kind of similar. I think he looks a lot cooler. I think it's really cool to see a prototype Eradicator. And unlike the others, I like how he's on kind of like some treads instead of actually having legs. He also does have his own theme as well, which is a remix of the original Eradicator's theme. His attacks, though, doesn't really do too much. Obviously I know these two guys are not meant to be hard because they're from the tutorial, but it doesn't really excite me too much when I see it, so I'll put him at like C tier. That'll probably be like the bottom of C tier. Okay, now moving on to the actual game modes. We have Plague Doctor. He's probably one of the earliest bosses you'll fight, but I'd say he does a pretty good job of introducing what bosses are in this game. He obviously does not kill your towers, but he does a good job of introducing how to deal with stuns or debuffs. His design is pretty cool. I do like how he's like partly cybernetic, as he has like a metal arm and he uses like, I guess, a little bit more modern technology in a sense. For his theme, I used to like it actually back when it came out, but I think there's honestly so many better boss themes nowadays, so I'd say overall the Plague Doctor will get a C. A little bit above the tutorial bosses, but still not the most exciting. Okay, now for the Predator. I'm not really too crazy about this guy. As for his design, I think he looks pretty cool, but I think he could use maybe an updated model. Obviously he only has like 2 attacks, which is just shooting your towers, so yes, he is a great introduction to killing your towers. However, you do see him a lot in other game modes, so he's really not, I'd say, too special anymore. So I'm gonna put him in the C tier as well. Oh yeah, and also for his theme, I'm not really too crazy about it, so yeah. Speaking of the Predators, I'm also going to put the Snow Predator in the same tier. He's basically the exact same thing, except he can freeze your towers as well. Alright, now moving on, let's talk about the Eradicator MK1. Despite him also being one of the earliest bosses ever made, he honestly still holds up to this day. Actually, I do enjoy fighting him a lot. The Eradicator's design overall has honestly become an iconic staple of TDX. He's this cool, astronaut, robot, humanoid guy in a suit with like a laser sword. So come on, that's pretty cool. As far as fighting him, he does have a bigger variety of attacks a mix of stunning, debuffing, and killing. And he is also, I think, the first boss that is introduced to have a second phase. And also, I do like the added details on him, like he has the tally marks on his chest. And also, I like it when you defeat him, he flies away instead of blowing up, which, obviously hints at Eradicator MK1C, which we'll talk about later. So, yeah, I think overall, Eradicator MK1 does a pretty good job at everything. So, he will go into the B tier. Alright, now we're talking about the King and Queen. I'm going to put them equally at a B tier, honestly. For the design, I do really like their designs, as they, bear a lot of resemblance to the Golden Towers, which obviously I assume originated from these two here. I do like how they work. The King obviously uses melee attacks and also summons, while the Queen attacks from a distance and targets, your most expensive towers. So the way they work together is pretty cool. However, I don't really like how they, summon tons of those golden knights, which are honestly really annoying to deal with. But I do understand their purpose is to kind of somewhat counter golden towers because they have a lot of golden resistance. As far as their theme goes, though, I'm not too crazy on it. Like, not really the biggest fan of like medieval sounding music. So, that's not to say it's bad, but it doesn't stick with me. So overall, they're a B tier. They're not too hard. But yeah, I think it's cool that Elite Mode has a lot more bosses now. As for the Cyber Dragon, though, I'm going to put him in the D tier. Mostly because he's just, again, like the Crush-O-Tron, he just doesn't really do anything. While he does look really cool, actually. Like, I'm pretty sure he is based off of the dragon from Doom the Dark Ages. But he only has like one attack, I believe, and he's really not that hard to take down. So he's pretty forgettable, in my opinion. But at least he looks cool. Alright, now for Revived Plague Doctor, and I'm going to tell you, I actually really like this boss. He's going into the A tier. His design, I think, is extremely cool. I really like how he's a more like cybernetically enhanced Plague Doctor with a metal arm, a peg leg, and also I like how his mask changes colors, and also his eyes kind of move as well as you fight him. So a lot of cool details added onto him. As far as fighting him, he's not particularly too hard. However, his new attacks, which is like the mass summon attacks across the map, and also his shield that makes you only do like 50 damage, those are pretty annoying, but once you do figure out how to deal with it, it's not too bad. You will occasionally kill your towers, but he's honestly not really too threatening. And for his theme, he actually has probably one of my favorite boss themes. Back when he was first released, yes, he had my favorite boss theme. I don't think it is anymore, but I do like how his theme is kind of a combination of, metal and, electronic, as that's kind of just build off of the Plague Doctor theme and add, a little bit more of a futuristic vibe to it. So just like the Eradicators. So it's very cool. So yeah, Revived Plague Doctor, I enjoy this boss a lot. For the expert mode bosses, so here we have actually the original Eradicator MK2. I'm also going to be putting him into the A tier. Now thinking back on it, obviously this was like the hardest boss in the game when TDX first released. And he's pretty good to fight. It was difficult but in a fun way. I mean, his design has become so iconic now. I mean, seeing this giant dude with these giant miniguns and like tons of rockets. I mean, like this guy's scary. And as far as his theme, it is kind of funny. I like how his theme has lyrics. I think, but not really too crazy with the whole like funk genre. So yeah, overall I enjoyed fighting the Eradicator MK2. We'll talk about the new one in a second. Alright, now talking about the three goobers, Phoebus, Zeus, and Artemis. I'm honestly all gonna put them in the C tier. So honestly, I mean, they are honestly kind of annoying. Phoebus, I really don't like how he constantly shields all the time. Zeus is pretty boring. He's basically just a watered down Eradicator MK1. Artemis, I really hate the attack that basically kills like 10 of your towers at once. So yeah, they are all annoying in their own ways. However, I do love their designs. I really like how they are kind of like mini Eradicators in a way. their color schemes and also like the armor they have is honestly really cool, as well as their weaponry, and their names also kind of fit the way they attack as well. And as far as their theme goes, vehicular positive reinforcement's probably one of my favorite boss themes ever made. So yeah, hats off for these three for making a banger of a theme. But yeah, otherwise, not a huge fan of fighting them, so they're all in the C tier. Okay, now we have the VX drone. I'm gonna put him in the D tier, mostly because similar to the Cyber Dragon, he kind of just doesn't do much. He does have a really annoying attack where he instantly kills one of your towers. However, he's not that hard to take down, so yeah, not much further explanation needed for him. Alright, now for the Destructor. I like this boss a lot, actually. Actually, I'll put him above there. The Destructor is basically like a predator on steroids. He has a wide variety of attacks that are really cool. Especially, I really like the ones where he literally flies up into space and comes crashing down on your towers. As far as his design, he looks kind of funny, but he does resemble, you know, the Predator a lot because he's a modified version of him. He has like that, his eye is like the Predator's, and also like his big arms as well. And for his theme, I like it a lot, actually. I like how the Destructor's theme kind of takes on a more like kind of 90s synthwave vibe in a way, instead of just, you know, metal. Not to say that there's something wrong with that, but I like how it's a little bit different. So overall, I enjoy fighting the Destructor, and especially in Nightmare mode when you fight two of them. I think it's really cool. Now we can talk about the new Eradicator Mark II, and I'm going to tell you guys, he's in the S tier. Probably one of the best boss fights in this entire game. The amount of attacks that this guy has, and just the whole sequence of the boss fight is so memorable from beginning to end. The TDX team did a fantastic job remastering this boss. His new model is even crazier, as he has like even more armor, even more weaponry, as well as his sound effects too. I'm pretty sure got changed, and they are just crazy cool. He is pretty damn hard, but he's a very good challenge from beginning to end. Even though he will probably kill a lot of your towers, he always keeps you on edge. And I always enjoy seeing his death animation too. I like how they kind of added some personality to it, as when he tries to shoot you with only his one arm and it doesn't work, and he's like, huh? As far as his theme, it's not really too much different. I think they added like a couple more lyrics, so yeah. I mean, that puts Eradicator Mark II plus in the S tier, man. Alright, now we're getting into some of the good bosses. Now we have Eradicator Mark IV. I gotta tell you, he is probably one of my favorite bosses in the game as well. I love his design. I like how he's designed as like a extremely tanky Eradicator. And I also appreciate the personality that has been put into him. He presents himself as this kind of big, you know, egotistical, you know, I'm so tough kind of guy. Especially when he attacks your warships with his artillery cannon. Overall, fighting him is pretty fun. He punishes your most expensive towers when his armor breaks and he is rushing to your base. Definitely puts you on edge a bit. And for his theme, Hellspawn is probably one of my favorite boss themes ever made. I especially like the lyrical part, and it adds a little bit more personality and also some lore, which I think is cool. And I especially love it when he dies. So yeah, Eradicator Mark IV, love this boss. Now we're talking about Mark 1C. I'm gonna put him at the top of A, I'd say. Oh, top of A. He is definitely a lot tougher, I'd say, than Mark IV. As far as his design, I really love seeing an upgraded Eradicator Mark I. You could totally tell, as he has 2 chain swords, he has 2 rocket launchers, and just more buffed up armor. As far as fighting him, he is pretty hard, but I really don't like it when he reshields himself. That is annoying. And for his theme, I definitely do like it. I kind of didn't like it at first, but overall I definitely get the vibe of like the whole sink your teeth in kind of thing. So yeah, overall I like Mark1C, and his death is insanely dramatic, as it should be. Alright, now we go. Now we're talking about Apex Predator. And he's going in the A tier. I know some of you are probably expecting it to be an S. I'll be putting Snow Apex Predator in the same tier as well, because they're like basically the exact same thing. Now, I do enjoy fighting him, and seeing a buffed up Predator definitely is pretty intimidating. His attacks are pretty cool. I really like how he uses his weird like rocket launcher / melee thing. And I also do enjoy seeing his animations, especially when he rips out his core and blows himself up. As far as his theme though, again, kind of with the whole funk genre, I'm not too big of a fan of it, although the lyrics are great. I feel like, although I kind of do feel like he's introduced a bit too late, as Mark 4 and Mark 1C are honestly a lot more memorable in my opinion than the Apex Predator. But oh wait, I also totally forgot, I'm gonna put the Void Apex Predator there too, because he's basically the same exact thing except just buffed up even more. Oh, I also forgot to put the golden versions of these guys up there as well. They're basically the same exact thing except they are buffed up even more. Okay, now let's talk about Calamity. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not really too big of a fan of Calamity. He's going into the B tier. Now, as far as design, I mean, I think he's really cool to see this extremely demonic, you know, kind of like rock god thing, like very intimidating. I also love the details when he turns the sky red. Fighting him though isn't really that exciting in my opinion, because he doesn't do much. What you're fighting most is his minions that he summons and not really himself, which I guess is the whole point, but I kind of wish that there was a bit more to him. But however, you know, as it implies, he is just a scout, and there are way crazier Calamity entities in the future that we probably will see. So overall, I think he serves his purpose pretty well. His theme I'm not really too crazy on though, so he gets a couple points knocked down for that. Alright, now moving on to the nightmare bosses. First up, we have the stupid Transformer jet guys, the X2 Trooper and Fighters. They're going into the B tier. Their designs are honestly pretty goofy. I understand they're going for the whole Transformer aesthetic. It is kind of weird seeing their fat bodies on these like skinny little legs. However, I do really love it when they transform into the jet and start bombing your towers. As far as fighting him, they are decently tough. Definitely lots of micro and replacing needed. However, it's pretty enjoyable. As far as their theme goes, I'm kind of mixed on it. Some parts sound pretty good, but some sound really just kind of confusing and unorganized. I'm sure that was probably the whole point they were going for. I don't make music, and who am I to judge on what is considered a good or bad song? That's just my opinion. But yeah, overall they are a B tier boss. Ooh, here we go. Now we're getting into the good stuff with Alpha Predator. Unlike Apex Predator, I love this boss. He is crazy, like definitely a super tough fight. I especially love it when he rips out his core but continues to keep going. That actually really surprised me when I first fought him. One of my favorite attacks, I absolutely just love that he can casually pull a nuke out of his pocket. But again, his theme is kind of the whole, I wouldn't say a remix of Apex Predator because it has new lyrics, but it's similar to it. So Alpha Predator is a pretty hype boss and a really good way to get into the conclusion of Nightmare Mode. Alright, and now, of course, Emperor's in S. I mean, this entire boss fight is just a cinematic masterpiece. The moment that he comes out of that portal, releases that horrifying, ear-piercing scream, tells you that this is going to be a fight to the end. And very true to his name, yes, he does not end you, and he is only there to weaken you, as implied when he attacks your base. And even if he reaches the end, he will continue to torment you. His attacks are all insanely tough to fight against, as well as he can corrupt your towers as well. And don't forget that this guy is worth $3,000, as that is what it took to animate him. And all of his animations are just fantastic. I absolutely love specifically the drone swarm and the like charge attack that he does. I've never really seen that on a boss for in any tower defense game. So yeah, Emperor, a very iconic, very revolutionary boss in my opinion. I also love how seems to be the most intelligent eradicators, as he can talk in full sentences, and just I love how they put so much effort into him. So yeah, Emperor, probably one of the best bosses in the game. Okay, we got a couple more. So this is the Dark Presence from the Secret Wave. He's going into the D tier, mostly because like I don't know, he's pretty forgettable. He doesn't really do too much, honestly, because for most of the Secret Wave you are dealing with the hordes of enemies and not really the Dark Presence itself. So he's kind of forgettable, honestly. And now, contrary to what a lot of you would think, I'm going to put the Nemesis in the B tier. Well, let's talk about what I like. Obviously, you know, it's Dr. Mallory, okay? And, you know, seeing just this giant, you know, hellified, like, angel of death is very intimidating to see going across the map. Her animations are also insanely well made, and I absolutely love how she has become just an essential part of the TDX lore. Fighting her really isn't that exciting. She doesn't really do a whole lot, again, because you are dealing with the hordes that she summons and not much herself, and all you do is just spam AA turrets or any other flying detecting tower, and that's kind of a whole problem with flying bosses and enemies in itself. That's really not like just the bosses, it's problem. Her theme also isn't, I don't find it that exciting to me. I know it's going for a more cinematic, more intense, hellish theme. Not really my vibe. But overall, yeah, Nemesis is a cool part of TDX. However, the boss itself isn't that exciting. Alright, now for the event towers. First we got Santa. He's going into B tier. I would say by himself he isn't the most exciting. Like, his attacks are pretty basic. However, I did find it was really fun to fight him in Christmas 2024 when in night 1 when you have to fight 2 of them. As far as his design, he's pretty basic. However, I do like it. The more you fight him, the more his skin falls off and we get to see that he's the Terminator on the inside. So overall, yeah, Santa, I think for the first event boss ever made, he's pretty good. However, there's definitely a lot better ones. Alright, Toilet John. Obviously, he's just a giant meme. I don't really have too much to say about it. It's just a giant skibidi toilet meme. Funny. Now, we have the Void. I'm just kidding. Of course, he's an S as well. Now, the Void is probably one of the most iconic bosses in any tower defense game. I absolutely love how TDX definitely remastered him from tower battles and just made him a whole lot crazier. I especially love his attacks for the Meteor Storm and also the Worship telekinesis ability. I mean, come on, who doesn't like seeing him destroy entire warships in one shot? So yeah, fighting him is pretty entertaining. I do like his theme quite a bit, and overall, just seeing the amount of effort they put into I guess you could say old or outdated boss and breathing it new life is very cool to see. So yeah, great job on making Void one of the best event bosses. Alright, now onto Halloween. We got the Heretic. He's really not that exciting, if I'm being honest with you. I really don't like his attacks, especially when he summons the Fanatics. Those are insanely annoying to deal with. Overall, I mean, I understand that he is a night 1 boss and that he's not meant to be some crazy boss, but he's not really too memorable for me, honestly. His design is cool though. I like how he's this kind of like cult leader kind of guy. His theme is okay though. I don't really have much to say. So yeah, he's in the top of D tier at least. Now I could have put this alongside the other Predators, but the Corrupt Predator actually I'd say gets like a B. Mostly because he does a lot more than the other predators. He has way more attacks, and he's also able to corrupt your tower, so fighting him is a little bit more entertaining. So that's really all I gotta say for him. Now for the engineer. I do like the engineer a lot. His design is very cool, very much to what he says, how he put himself together. He is definitely made of various parts, you know, having a gun for his hand. He has like a cybernetic eye, and also, you know, various awakened army slash, you know, Dr. Xenon-esque parts. Fighting him is definitely interesting. I like it when he summons the nail golem from the ceiling. I've never really seen that ever in a tower defense game. And overall, and his other attacks are definitely pretty deadly, especially the giant shockwave one. And for his theme, I've got to say, he probably has one of the better themes out of the Halloween 2024 event. I'm not usually too much of a fan of like the heavy dubstep or like heavy or like rave kind of music. But I don't know, his goes pretty hard for some reason. So yeah, the engineer, pretty cool boss. I like it. Okay, now we have the 3 Warhammer guys, the Ravager, Striker, and Contemptor. I'm all going to put them in the C tier. Now, one, I do really like their designs. I like how when the Awakened Army, you know, is a mix of, you know, hell and also, like, machines. So they definitely represent that really well. As far as fighting him, the Ravager's kind of annoying because you constantly have to bait him. The Strikers, they're kind of boring. They don't really do too much, except when I guess you don't prioritize them. The Contemptor is probably, I'd say, the most dangerous out of all of them, so at least he's something. As far as the theme goes, I'm not really too crazy about it, so yeah, honestly, overall they're kind of a C tier. Not really that memorable for me, in my opinion. Alright, now we have Corrupt Eradicator Mark II. He's gonna go into the A tier. As for his design, I do like how he has different weapons. Like he has that triple-barreled minigun and a grenade launcher, so something different than the, you know, original Mark II. As far as fighting him, I'd say he's kind of like not as hard, to be honest, as his original iteration. It is also unfortunate too that, and I'm not sure if they still have it or if it's just a rare chance, but I do like it when he does have that jump scare attack. I remember that was like a scrap thing, but I think when they added replayable events, they added it to him. So yeah, and for his theme, it's like I don't know, again, doesn't really stick with me. So overall, he's a pretty enjoyable boss, but I kind of prefer the original better. Alright, now we have Corrupt Apex Predator. And I actually think he's probably my favorite out of all the Predators. I love his design. I really like his interesting looking like cross minigun thing. His animations are very cool too, especially when he dies and he tries to rip out his core, but it's not there. Fighting him is definitely pretty tough. He constantly summons the Vile Seraphs and also the Maze Guardians, as well as he can corrupt your towers too. He's honestly a lot more of an interesting boss compared to what I'm going to talk about next, which is the Wretched. He's going to C tier. I wish I could have put him in A or S, but as most of us know, unfortunately, he didn't really deliver as much as we thought he would. Before I bash on him, I will talk about the positives. His design, I love the Wretched's design. I kind of thought when I first saw him, he looks like Spyrise from Skylanders, if you know who that is. But it is interesting how he's like this somewhat humanoid thing on the under his mask, but he's also mostly, you know, robotic. And I like how he turns into this like weird snake thing once you damage him enough. And overall, yeah, his design is very cool. How the fight goes with him, this is where his downfall is. When he did release, he really didn't do very much. His attacks were not really that interesting or dangerous. And overall was definitely an anticlimactic end to the Halloween event. However, they did rework him a little bit, but still, I kind of feel like it wasn't enough to make him more interesting. So he's not the worst boss ever. We'll always remember him for being kind of underwhelming. And it's not really his fault. I understand that, you know, the devs kind of rushed him a bit. It's just an unfortunate turn of events for the Wretched. Oh yeah, his theme also isn't really that good, if I'm being honest as well. Now, let's talk about Ginger Dread. I like Ginger Dread. You know, his design is pretty simple, but I do really like it when he goes into his second phase and his whole face becomes like a laser thing. So yeah, fighting him is pretty good. However, that laser sweep attack is pretty annoying, honestly. And also when he dies, he will blow up everything, which is also annoying. His theme is very interesting though. When I actually first heard your strat sucks, I actually thought it would be the losing theme. That would be like the perfect thing you would say to somebody who loses. But no, it ended up being the boss's theme, which is interesting. I kind of feel like it doesn't fit, but it's still a banger regardless. So yeah, Ginger Dread, pretty interesting boss, I must say. Alright, now Elder Wendigo. He's going into the D tier. He's kind of doesn't do much, but his one attack is insanely annoying. That's all I really remember it for. Okay, now let's talk about Celgar. I do like him a lot. I definitely do think he's kind of like a Frosty remastered. I do like how a lot of his attacks feel extremely beefy and extremely brutal. Especially when he attacks the base. I like it when he just punches it mercilessly. However, it is really annoying, as we all know, when he constantly shields himself, and that is really annoying. His theme is very interesting too. It's really cinematic, and I really like how they went for a more, well, how do I describe it, like Viking or style? I don't know what I'm saying, but with the whole chanting and lyrics and stuff like that. But anyway, yeah, General Celgar is a pretty fun boss to fight. Oh, right, the Dank Celgar. This is from the April Fool's event. I'm gonna put him a tier lower because he's the same exact thing, except actually he has less attacks. So yeah, not as exciting. And then this Illuminati guy, yeah, he's kind of boring. He's basically just a giant bullet sponge for the most part. I didn't really find it that memorable. I know he's a April Fool's giant meme, but yeah, still not exciting for me. Alright, Captain Slime. I'm not going to put any of his other forms in there because it's the same boss. Oh, actually, except let me put that there real quick. Alright, Captain Slime. I like Captain Slime. I do like how he's has his giant slime gun. He's not particularly hard, but honestly that's okay. Obviously the takeover event was supposed to be a more casual event, but he still provides a pretty good boss fight. He stuns and debuffs you a lot, but he makes up for it, as it's really entertaining to to whittle him down into his smaller and smaller forms. And his theme is an absolute banger as well. It's a really nice Destructor remix, I think. So yeah. Now let's talk about the Slime King. I'm gonna put both his forms in the A tier. I mean, Slime King is pretty cool. He, very much like Captain Slime, most of his attacks will just debuff you or stun you. However, I really like his animations, and also especially when he falls, kind of goes into his second form, when he falls into like a puddle of slime and then comes out as like this horrible monster. So, and not to mention, bro, his theme is honestly one of the best damn boss themes I've ever heard. Like, seriously. Like, y'all need to appreciate the takeover event more. And now for the final boss, the Forgotten Knight. I'm gonna kind of put him in the C tier. Okay, sorry with the pros. I do like it how he sits on top of the castle as you play the game, and then when he finally comes alive, you know, he jumps right off of it. And fighting him though is kind of boring. Again, he's a flying boss, so you just spam AA turret and you win the game. And also, most of the time you're dealing with the summons that he spawns and not really much himself. So, and his theme is decent. Not too crazy about it, so yeah, a little bit underwhelming, but I guess that was kind of Halloween 2025 as a whole, and so I don't blame anybody for not liking him. Alright, and that is the tier list. I didn't put any in F. I don't think there's like one absolutely horrific boss that I just hate for all eternity, so that's why it's empty. But feel free to comment what you think, and also don't forget to subscribe. This year for TDX was definitely a pretty damn good one, and I'm honestly really excited to see what happens next year. I think there's going to be a lot of cool stuff coming out, and the same can be said for this channel. I really want to thank you guys real quick for the amount of growth that I've been seeing on this channel. I cannot believe that after pretty much leaving it dead for almost a year, getting back into it feels really good, and just seeing the comments and the amount of views on my commander's guide and stuff makes me really happy. So yeah, man, let's keep building this channel together. I've got some really cool content coming up in the future, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, I hope you guys have a good rest of the year. Here's to 2026. Take care.